Buff Nation, what is going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your weekend. Please do not be working too hard at this point in the afternoon. Quick shout out, really quick. We got Out of Mind here. We got Bodie in the house. Y'all be sure to hit that like. Consider subscribing not only to my channel, but to Buffs News Weekly. Really excited to have you on the show today. How you doing, Russ?
I'm doing good. It's Friday, so I can't complain, and we're getting closer to spring ball.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm ready to see, how this offensive line comes together, how this defensive line comes together. But we know in college football, man, with even though it's a shorter season than the NFL season, there is news to talk about every single day. And wow, Chip Kelly, let's lead off with that, man. Chip Kelly said, man, I'm out of here. I finally found an offensive coordinator position that I am interested in, that I want to take. I don't want to be a head coach anymore with Bill O'Brien out after 3 weeks to take the head coaching position at Boston College. What's your initial reaction to this? I think from like a macro perspective, no one can hone in on what it means for Colorado.
Yeah. It's funny if you're a longtime Buffs fan in the chat. I could almost say that this might be worse than Midnight Mel leaving Colorado.
It sucks.
After both signing days, Chip Kelly is out. It sounded like he was getting fired at the end of the season. That all happened, and bam, now this happens. It's almost like Chip Kelly is like kind of giving the finger on the way out to UCLA and their administration as he decides to take a demotion to get out of there.
Yeah, just absolutely crazy. And, there were some rumors or some talk rather about him just being done with it going into this year, how he didn't have the energy for recruiting at a high level anymore. And I think you saw or see right now, their recruiting class is somewhere ranked nationally within the 50s. I mean, there are a handful of G5 programs recruiting stronger than UCLA right now. But yeah, it's a terrible way to go out. It's something that I wish we could fix with the college football calendar somehow, of having these coaches leave like this after National Signing Day. But I don't know if there's any way you can change it. What any ideas on your end, Russ? Is this just a reality of college football that's always going to be there?
I mean, unless you have like a requirement of you can't quit, but then you also run into the argument of, well, then can schools not fire you whenever they want? I mean, coaching, that's the hard part, is it's a job, and jobs have the opportunity to fire you anytime, and you have the opportunity to quit anytime. So, I mean, that's where those buyouts come in for coaches. Really, is there, that is kind of the only thing there to kind of protect schools to hopefully retain their coaches or leave in a better position when the coach leaves, because you're getting that big payday of that coach leaving. That's pretty much all. I mean, there's not much else you can do. It's good that they have the transfer portal available to them, but On3 made a good point today. Even though the transfer portal is now open for UCLA, most of those players are not going to leave just yet. They can't, because of classes and where they're at in the semester. So they're screwed already right there. The players are. The most they can do is wait until the spring transfer portal and join teams in the summer. So we may not see as big of a mass exodus from UCLA as a result. But obviously it depends on who they name as their coach. If they're smart, they probably go internally for a coach to try and keep their players, because they'll be much more happy with rallying around somebody that's already there rather than somebody brand new coming in. But honestly, I have no idea. We're in for a roller coaster with this.
Yeah, I think we are. That's a great point, talking about the semester already started. So a lot of these players are going to have to go through the spring semester before they jump into the portal. So you might see this might be kind of a delayed change with their roster, so to speak. Now, I have seen PJ Fleck's name thrown around a little bit as a potential candidate for UCLA. I think that would make a lot of sense with them moving to the Big Ten. And while Minnesota has only had, I guess, a handful of years where they've kind of been really part of the conversation nationally, I do think PJ Fleck does a pretty good job there at Minnesota, given the circumstances, given that Minnesota is never, in my opinion, ever going to be one of those top teams in the conference. Could that work out for UCLA? At least the weather's nicer there in Minneapolis than compared to Minneapolis. We'll just have to see. But I mean, once you're $100 million in debt or whatever their athletic program is, what is another $30-40 million, man?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree with you. I mean, that's a great name to bring up. It'd be a huge promotion. The job he's done at Minnesota, because I think not too long ago, Minnesota wasn't even the conversation. Each year I still watch a few of their games because they always seem to be on national TV, and the things that they put together over at that program are pretty nice compared to what it used to be. So that would be a probably good fit. Somebody else in the chat said Carl Durrell is a lock to UCLA. We'll see. Hey, Mel Tucker's available if you guys want somebody who's in a lot of trouble.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, now you can kind of even make this joke. If UCLA wants stronger recruiting, they should definitely run the whole Carl Durrell thing back again for a second run. So let's see how that goes. But Russ, I know this news is still kind of breaking, still pretty new. Is there anybody, I do have an article pulled up that we can walk through, but I want to ask you first, is there anybody right now that you have top of mind with the UCLA roster that you're hoping enters the portal, that you're hoping CU is able to target?
Yeah, there's one big name, and a lot of Buffs fans are kind of going crazy over on Twitter about that. And that is Kane Medrano. Their starting linebacker from last year. A really good player. And he hails from the city of Pueblo, Colorado. And some people have been doing some sleuthing. If you guys want to on Twitter, definitely follow it's Gucci over on Twitter. That guy is like the FBI when it comes to checking out recruit stuff through Twitter. He actually got in trouble. One of the team administrators reached out to him to tell him to stop because he was leaking likes. Like, he was finding where coaches were liking posts of potential recruits, and they ended up coming to Colorado. So putting 2 and 2 together. But he is one that I definitely think could be. They uncovered that back in his high school days, he came to Colorado on a recruiting visit. He came to Colorado for football camp. Obviously, I think at the time, UCLA is a much better choice when he committed than CU was. So I think that was a huge deal for him. The other cool thing with him, he started out as a safety and wide receiver, both in high school and college, transferred over to the linebacker, and has really taken off in the last year or so. Last year, he ended up with 56 tackles for a loss, or that's his career. 56 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 2 pass defended is what we see on the tweet that I'm looking at.
I love it. Yeah, I know Pro Football Focus, they always have some discrepancies with like how they grade tackles and different things like that. But yeah, like, looks like he had some really good production. If you're looking at how he was graded better than all of our linebackers this past year. So yeah, I would love it. And in terms of like utilization right here, let me see like where they have him lined up. Okay, so mainly in box. They have him on the line a little bit. He's played some slot. So yeah, and even when you're looking at his grades, I mean, graded out pretty decently in both run and pass rush. Coverage, you never really see a ton of linebackers with super high coverage grades, but I think would be a substantial improvement above the majority of the guys that we have in the room right now. So he has 1 year of eligibility left, correct?
Yep, it's his COVID year. You had looked at the UCLA roster back a little bit ago when that was kind of being rumored, and we thought he was listed on the roster as a senior, but he has that COVID year that he was in the middle of. So he does have 1 year of eligibility, and he has decided to come back to school. He was on the fence in December, decided to come back. I wonder if now he would do that over again. He would declare for the draft, because now he's at a point where he can't declare at this point. All of the stuff's been happening. The Senior Bowl's already happened. You know, the Combine's coming up. He's kind of left with now being stuck in school. And if he doesn't get a great coach to come in, he could lose some draft stock now staying at UCLA.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Come on, get out here to Boulder. Get out here to Boulder. Another guy that, and I guess I can share this here really quick. Anthony Miller of the College Football Network put out this article just like a couple hours ago talking about 5 potential big time players to enter the portal from UCLA. I'm going to butcher his name. Oladejo. Oladejo. That's what I'll say. Yeah. I'll just read this right here. We can go into his stats as well. Bruins are losing their top 2 tacklers from this past season in the 2024 draft. Okay. Oladejo was set to stick around for another year after finishing 3rd on the team with 54 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 2.5 tackles for a loss, half a sack, 1 interception. Man, that would be a big time improvement for our linebacker room. Again, if we just want to look from like a grades perspective, both of these guys graded substantially higher than like where we were at. I'll put Colorado's room in here too. I
don't even know if I want to look at that.
Compare. Yeah, Marvin Ham was our best one. We're ranked there at 543. So that would be pretty exciting. Another guy that they had on here that I thought we should take a look at, offensive guard. I would still love us to get more and more competition there on our offensive line. And yes, he started every game at left guard this past year, earning 3rd team All-Pac 12 honors. So, yeah, I'll share this right here. Spencer Holstage. So maybe those are some potential targets that we go after. I think if I had to choose a side of the ball that we would target, probably be more defense. And hopefully there are some defensive linemen that we can go out and target as well. But all those guys that I looked at like a week, 2 weeks ago, I've already forgot all their names. So I'll need to go back and remind myself of guys that we've looked at. But any other thoughts on these guys or UCLA?
All I'll say is I'd say probably 30 minutes after the announcement came down, Coach Prime did tweet, "I ain't hard to find." So I'm pretty sure he's already in on this. And hoping that some of these players are going to reach out to him because I think what we're seeing today, especially Jordan Seaton just walking around Radio Row like a celebrity and he hasn't played any college football, is probably the most prime effect moment that you could have. And so, especially for like Kane, he's missing out on the NFL. If he came to Colorado and succeeded with the spotlight he would have, I guarantee he's getting a 1st-round grade at linebacker if he did that.
Man, you bring up a great point. Yeah, it's been cool to see what we've had going on from a CU perspective at Radio Row. And I think Preston Hodge, I think I saw that he was there with the Sanders family as well. So it's nice to see both big-time recruits and big-time transfers coming in, joining them for that week. And yeah, I'm excited, man, to see where this whole brand goes, especially after we put some more wins in the results category here in 2024. But let's talk a little bit before we get to the 2024 season. We got to talk about filling out our coaching staff. We got Rob Livingston coming in here as DC, as well as, I guess the latest news now is that Warren Sapp is going to be a GA. So instant reactions to those hires. Where do you want to start?
So I told you I had something on the Sapp thing. So I did a little research because I was wondering too. At one point, I was close to becoming a GA at my college for soccer back in the day, and so I knew a little bit about it. So as soon as he said that, it started getting my brain kind of going because of the US Today article saying how they weren't going to be able to hire Sapp on staff, and that his background was going to cause issues. The state of Colorado's really strict on your background check, all of that. So the big thing that I found out, because I did wonder about this, GAs are not considered employees. They are considered students. And I'm pretty sure that students do not have to have a background check to get into school. So my input for the day is, as soon as Sapp said that, I was like, that's how you get him in the door. You get him a GA position. And then what happens is, if he does a really good job coaching and there's no issues, Rick George could take that to the regents and the board and say, hey, can we make an exception for this guy? He did an amazing job this year for the team. He's been a great stand-up citizen for the community, for where it's at. I think that's a way to get him in the door officially, and then be able to say, okay, let's hire this guy full-time. Let's not worry about his background. He's a recovered, person when it comes to that background.
Wow. What a loophole, man. But so, okay, let's spitball this a little bit. If you're Warren Sapp, I guess that means you have to take graduate school classes, right? So what's he getting his master's in?
I have no idea, but there's loopholes with that too. Let's be honest. I mean, when you ask a football player what their degree is in, and they're like general studies, that's code for I'm not really going to school. I'm just going to enough classes to get qualified for football, and my idea is I'm going to be doing either something related to football or NFL after college. So my guess is he's going to have some weird master's program. I haven't looked at the list, but that's my guess of what Sapp will probably be doing. But hey, we got Sapp to go back and get his degree, and we're gonna get Sapp to get a master's degree. Like, CU, man, is really changing the way that people and their backgrounds and education are set.
Man, I think it's totally true. Y'all, Zion saying it here. That was a sneaky move by Prime, and absolutely genius to get one of his good friends on staff, despite some of the roadblocks they were facing ahead of time. So I think that's a great point. What I brought up earlier in my stream earlier today was that I imagine he's on that zero tolerance policy, just like all the other players are when it comes to these things. So yes, if he proves himself to be a good coach and continues to have a great track record while here at CU, it is, I think, how'd somebody put it here? The good boy provision. I need to find, Coach Ted. He's been a good boy provision, and maybe that's his way on getting elevated onto a full-time role on the staff. Man, I love that sort of sleuthing, diving into the details on why this thing's going to work, this is the way around all of that. And I'm excited to see Warren Sapp on the staff. Did you catch his Radio Row interview from earlier this week? Might have been yesterday.
I've caught a couple of them, yeah.
I just caught the snippet where he said, I had a bunch of the boys in the hot tub with me wanting to suck knowledge out of me. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of great one-liners on the well-off media, and I doubt he'll be interviewed for like formal press conferences being a GA, but I'm sure we will see quite a bit of Warren Sapp on the behind-the-scenes videos, for sure. But let's go ahead and talk about our DC, Rob Livingston. What is your first reaction to his hire? What were you expecting? I guess let's back up there before the hire. What was the kind of profile of a DC that you were expecting?
Yeah, the last time I was on, we kind of chatted about this, and I even made mention of the fact that it's going to be somebody that we have not even heard mentioned once in this whole process, and it's going to literally come out of nowhere. So that's really what Rob Livingston is. However, when you really dive into his connections, his background, what are the things that have kind of, really kind of defined his career? And with him, obviously being a defensive backs coach, that's a huge part of it. The players that he's been able to develop with the Bengals, that's been a part of it. He has a CU connection at Cincinnati with Cheeto being there, and he did talk about Cheeto. They just released an interview, by the way, a couple minutes ago on the Buff Stampede, and it was an interview with Livingston from the other night at the Boosters, and that's what he said. He said he's very close to Cheeto, and so he kind of had an idea about what to expect from this. And then looking at just his background, who he's coached under, the coaching tree he hails from, William and Mary College is becoming a renowned coaching pipeline. Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, just to name a few, but a ton of other assistant coaches, position coaches. So I think overall, when you really look at it, there's a risk. There is a risk involved. And I've heard fans say this. He's never called plays before. So what does that look like? That's going to be the biggest risk. Can he do that part? If he can, I think we're fine. The other thing I saw somebody bring up was, can he recruit? My big thing is he has scouting experience. He has 2 years of scouting experience in the SEC. And I believe, I want to say the Big Ten, but I saw that with the Bengals. So he has experience looking at players' development, looking at players' abilities. So now he just has to take that to the high school level. Can he build that relationship with those players? That'll be another question about that. But overall, I think it's a good hire. Could there have been a quote unquote sexier pick out there? Absolutely. I do feel like, and I think everybody's kind of talked about this already, I don't feel like he was choice number one. We obviously know that something else was in place back in December. I think something happened with that. If Mike Zimmer was involved, seeing that he's going to the NFL now, and Mike Zimmer has experience with Rob Livingston, I'm wondering if Zim told Prime, hey, this guy's a diamond in the rough. I think you should take a look at him because I'm going to go to the NFL. I can't go back to see you because of this. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at this with Livingston. There had to have been some sort of Mike Zimmer recommendation, I think, because he hasn't had that relationship with Coach Prime prior to this. And yeah, I think that this is pretty uncommon to see somebody that has, been at the Bengals, I want to say since 2012, been through so many different defensive coordinators, a few different head coaches or a couple different head coaches. And for you not to be laid off or released or fired, but retained for your entire NFL tenure. And I didn't go back to his time in college. I know he moved around a little bit, but I've heard some criticism about, well, if this guy was so good, he's been coaching safeties for like 7 years or whatever, but and he hasn't been elevated at 37 yet to a DC role in the NFL. No. This guy hasn't been fired in a career in which you're fired all the time, even if you are a good coach. That's what blows my mind. It shows that he's at least been very dependable. He's been competent to want to be retained by multiple bosses.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that you said that, because as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense too. It's so hard to survive coaching changes, and he's been through a number of them. That should speak volumes to one. This is where I was going to get to, is the players have to respect him. If they didn't respect him, he wouldn't hang around either, because the coaches asked the players that. They asked the players, do you want this guy hanging around? What do you think of this guy? If I brought this guy in, would you like that better? Or are the players going to say, no, Livingston's my guy, keep him on staff? So that, again, tells me that he is good with relationships, the way he talks about his players. Some of the players that he's developed on the Bengals secondary, Von Bell and Jesse Bates, who just cashed in on huge contracts, probably in large part to Livingston and his ability to develop them and coach them up. So that is massive thing that we have to definitely point out.
Yeah, totally. That's another great thing to point out, is that he is respected, or else he wouldn't have been retained. In terms of the defense, I know it's difficult because he hasn't called plays. That's the big question mark about this hire. Excuse me. What are you expecting in terms of scheme or how he's going to use these players? Have you been able to dive much into that? Do you got any initial ideas or expectations?
Yeah, so I've been diving into some video on the Bengals, just assuming that he will kind of adapt some of Anarumo's style, the defensive coordinator in Cincinnati. The thing that I really love is Cincinnati was a heavy zone defense. And I think that the movement to zone might benefit our secondary a lot better than what we had with Charles Kelly.
Interesting.
So they run a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3. There's a great video, by the way, if you guys go over. I'm going to butcher the name. It's a Buffs account that did a video dive into the Bengals. I think that is. Yeah.
I have that on my watch later.
Yeah, I watched it earlier. They have some great things. You want to know the one thing that they pointed out that the Bengals are really good at covering? Crossers. They are very good at covering crossers. So it was like, this is what I'm talking about. And I think with our secondary, really, besides Travis, our secondary is not made up of man cornerbacks. I think they can excel a lot more in a zone situation. And so that's probably my biggest takeaway from what I've seen. From what I also read and looked up, they really ran a 4-3-3-4. They were very ability to switch up. So that right there tells me that we're not going to really know what the potential personnel is going to look like just yet. We probably won't until actual spring ball. But see young kids, both type of defenses there that they kind of run a different hybrid and the 4-3-4. So, but the zone defense part is the one that I really keyed in on, and I think that's going to be very beneficial for this defense.
Interesting. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more to that on like, will the zone defense help with the crossers, for instance, or how are we kind of taking advantage of playing those man coverages?
Yes. So the videos I saw and the breakdowns that I saw, especially with the Bengals themselves and how they dealt with it, and they were looking at, by the way, the Chiefs against the Bengals, and Patrick Mahomes was having some issues with it because he didn't have enough time in the sense that, the coverage, there was a lot of coverage sacks and coverage pressure that their defense created, which tells you again with him being a DB's coach, that's an important aspect to that. And that's kind of what Coach Prime wanted originally with last year's team. And so when they go across the field, they're switching off rather than having to chase. The problem is if they get you on that first move and they go along that crosser, which is what we saw happen. I mean, Torrey Horton for CSU just absolutely, Troy Horton killed us in that game. And it's because he beat him off the line. And then now you're just chasing the player. There's nobody to help you. There's nobody to really like move up and do that. It leaves that wide open. Like if you don't either jam them at the line of scrimmage or are able to kind of read where they're going to go, you're kind of already taken out of the play. And I think that's the biggest problem that Charles Kelly really had is not being able to kind of adapt to that and not say, hey, we should probably do zone. I'm sure that Coach Prime talked to him about this, and I'm sure that he had some things to say because if you watch the Prime documentary, there were times where Prime was calling out what was about to happen and asking his defensive coordinator to change up to defend it, and nothing was happening. So overall, I think it's going to be a good change. We'll just have to see if he is able to make that transition. The good news is I think we've got enough experience on this team that if he needs to ask for help or ask for advice, he's going to have that. Guys like Dancy being on the staff, some of the other people that we have in the building are experienced enough. So I think going with somebody new, young, and upcoming is a great play long-term for the Buffs, because now I don't believe this is a one and done type situation if he's successful.
Totally. And a lot of people have brought up Michigan's prior DCs, Mike Minter, Mike McDonald, guys who have come in, no play calling experience on the defensive side prior, and then they've been able to parlay that into big time elevations. So yeah, I don't understand the criticism or hate for a hire like this. Especially, this is what I've said too. If you remove the name Colorado, if you remove the name Coach Prime, this guy's resume and track record is more than qualified to take over as a defensive play caller for a 4-8 football team. And the fact that we can get, I think, a guy that a lot of people seem to think is an up-and-comer in the NFL, I think is a great hire, considering that this guy is not our first choice. And I even go as far to say is I don't know if this was Livingston's first choice either. Maybe that's why that's why this thing took so long, but I don't think that's to say, or that says anything about if this thing can be successful or not. I think, again, the biggest thing is we're just going to have to see how does he utilize the talent. If he is following in the footsteps of a lot of the great defensive minds that he's coached for, I think you're going to see an improvement with the defense. And I mean, that's my biggest hope. Unless you got a comment on that, Russ, I wanted to get to some questions that I highlighted from the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. We'll start with some of the quick ones here. I'll go through here. Yo Creo, I believe, who's going to be the D-line coach? That is still Sal Sinceri, right? But is he still alive? Like, what is?
Nobody knows. They announced all those coaches changing today, officially, and nothing about the D-line coach. So as far as we're concerned, Sal is still the D-line coach. Whether or not he's here, whether he's somewhere, no idea.
If not, we can just use a hologram version of him, I guess. Outsider Sports coming in here. Travis is history. Does not say man-to-man guy. I'm guessing he's wanting to comment a little bit about isn't Travis more of a man-to-man guy? Does this have to do more with the rest of the secondary rather than Travis? Thoughts on how we might utilize him this year?
Well, and I said outside of Travis, he was the only one that man-to-man straight up, he's a baller. Like, even the plays that he got beat on, he was there, and some of those receivers made ridiculous plays. I mean, let's talk about some of those that happened, like the helmet catch, the one game, like, most ridiculous thing ever. Amazing coverage, perfect play. Yeah, so he's going to be fine. But what I think will advantage, and we saw this, look at Travis's interceptions. He baited the quarterback and was able to read the eyes. In zone coverage, he can do that even more. He can just stay in his area, read the eyes, bait the quarterback if he wants by hanging out in a soft zone and coming up. So absolutely, I think Travis can play either, but absolutely Travis can play man. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the rest of the secondary. I think we saw it a little bit. Like, I do realize that Cormani had some moments in man-to-man where he looked better, but I think in zone, he's going to get a lot more help. And that probably would have eased him in more in his development than just going straight man-to-man with older college players that had a ton more experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next question. Yo Creo, I believe again. Appreciate you, man. We failed to recruit any Bama players after the Nick Saban hire. That's true. Anquan Barnes came before that, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. How many UCL players do you think will join Prime? Like one, maybe two max? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the only advantage we have over that is those were SEC players leaving, and they may have wanted to stay in specific programs and things. UCLA has experience with Colorado. I mean, we played each other every year. They have experience playing us. They understand that program. They understand what's going on. They might have a better knowledge of that if they want to make that transition. Mm-hmm. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know if Coach Prime reached out to any of those players. We don't know, if they didn't want to come here. That's a little hard to say. Does it bite that we did not get any Alabama players that entered that transfer portal? Yes. But it'll be interesting to see. Coach Prime said he is going to get a couple more players in the spring transfer portal. So, and he already said they were going to be linebacker was a focus. So we know what the playbook is going to be. Now it just depends on, who enters the portal and what that looks like.
Yeah. I think we definitely got to be targeting the interior defense, linebacker, defensive line, all of that. I just think still, while we have, in my opinion, crushed it in the transfer portal, CU still hasn't been in that spot yet to contend for top end transfers like Caleb Downs. They're going to want to go to another instant contender. Once we put some more wins to this, we'll start to get more access to these transfers, those elite of the elite. So that's why it's like, I don't know. We'll see everybody who enters the portal from UCLA, but I think it would be a big success if we can get even one or two of those guys to come out here and play a substantial role, similar to, I know he actually never suited up for Washington, but we did get BJ Green, who was hoping to play at Washington this past year. So if we're able to get another guy like that from UCLA, I think that would be a huge win for us.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm looking forward to see what happens during that spring portal.
No doubt. And this isn't a question, but I wanted to comment on this because this is a talking point
Yep.
that I haven't commented on, Russ. And I'm going to comment on it first. You can react to it, whatever. Okay, so there's this narrative that we hired a defensive coordinator that's also the safeties coach so that Coach Prime can get his boy to the NFL. Okay, I can say that is partially true, but I don't think that's the overall reason for why you're hiring this guy. If you take Shiloh's name out of it or you replace his name with another name, not Sanders, this is how I see it. Coach Prime, right now, his strength of his defenses have been the secondary, okay? That's the position group that he's going to be able to recruit most effectively throughout his entire coaching career. So to me, it makes sense that if you're going to bring in a DC, hey, that guy should also be highly experienced with coaching the secondary so that you can always make sure that you're developing your highest end talent at a position of strength year after year. Right now, Shiloh's a part of that, yes. But also, let's not act like Shiloh wasn't our best safety last year. And if we can get him to another level this year, the Buffs defense is going to be much better off. I know that Shiloh gets a lot of criticism for missing some of his tackles and whatever, but he was by far our best member of the safety group this past year. And I don't understand why he gets the flack that he does. But anyways, what are your thoughts, Russ?
Yeah, and I'm going to go a different direction too with this and agree with you. But my big thing is, and we're starting to realize this more and more, if you really pay attention to Coach Prime, people say that Coach Prime is selfish. He's out for himself. He's only in it for the fame and the glory, and it's all about him. And that's, I think, where this kind of comment comes from, is all he cares about is him and his own, not the team, not the other players, whatever that looks like. That's just not who he is. And you hear that from everybody. If he was such a me guy deep down behind the scenes, would all these players be running up to him and saying, hey, man, what can I do to help you at Colorado? Like, I would love to come in and coach up your receivers. I would love to come in, coach up your linemen. Like, watching yesterday's well-off video with him walking around Radio Row in the Super Bowl, tons of players, different connections, all asking what they can do for him. If somebody was selfish, would these people be willing to sacrifice and give up things that aren't really going to help their brand or their style for Coach Prime? Like, that tells me that deep down, he is not that person. Like, he's the flashy Prime on the outside to the media, but Deion on the inside is a guy that cares about these kids, cares about winning, cares about putting them in a successful position. And so I think when he makes this hire, he is doing that from that position, not I'm only here to get Shador and Shiloh to the NFL and then book it and all that. So I think that's where that narrative kind of comes from too.
Yeah, man. I think it's funny. And I think a lot of times people say it in a way in which it's got to be like an either or type of thing. Like, Coach Prime is only doing something for the betterment of Shiloh and Shador. It can't just be like, oh, no, it's for the betterment of them. And also the rest of the personnel or the position groups, like all of that. I think no doubt, Coach Prime wants to see both of his sons, Shiloh and Shador, developed. I think you can totally make that argument for the Pat Shurmur hire as well, that he wants to get Shador more in a pro-style system, all of that, prepare him for the NFL. But hey, if you're selling the NFL to recruits, if you're selling the NFL to transfers, wouldn't you be doing that anyways? Would it be a disservice if you take away the Shador Sanders name and you see a guy whose strengths should project to play in a pro style very well, and you not go get a coordinator that fits with those strengths? Make a change. We kind of saw how that played out this past year when it didn't fit to his strengths. So yeah, I think it can be a both and thing, guys.
Yeah.
Like that's okay. It can be a both and thing. He's a dad too. This is what you expect when a coach has his sons as players. And this isn't the only situation in which this has happened throughout the history of college football. Good Lord.
Or Colorado.
Right.
We're used to it as Colorado fans. Like, that was him coming to Colorado and bringing his sons. It was like, okay, this is normal. This is normal CU business. Like, this happens all the time.
Now, I will say, I'm not gonna put any of this on you, Russ. So I'm not gonna ask you to comment on it. But I do think it's a fair criticism that with some of the assistant coaches that are here, there's this narrative around is Coach Prime just looking out for those guys over what is best for the team? I don't know. I'm willing to give some of those guys this next year.
Yeah.
If we don't see growth and development, then you have to do what's best for these players and get some guys in here that have a better track record of developing talent. I think that some of those guys, in my opinion, they got this year to prove it.
I agree. And I think that that's the other rumor we've been hearing, is that the other defensive coordinator that could have maybe been coming in wanted to bring his own staff.
Yeah.
And I also heard rumors that Coach Prime was trying to get some jobs for some of his buddies on the team and get them elevated elsewhere to then open that up. I swear I saw some rumors about like Coach Hart and like a Texas school, them trying to get him a position there. So my guess is Coach Prime's starting to think that, understand that, because he's at a much higher level and he needs to have people who can truly coach at this level. I agree. Give him one more year. And I think most of the fans I've talked to have said, I'm fine with giving them one more year.
Yeah.
But if things don't improve from those positions, I know I see a lot of hate from the fans for Coach Hart and his linebacking crew and just his knowledge and what he does. He's an amazing person. Don't get me wrong. But I just haven't seen it for what he's been able to do with that. And here's what I had somebody bring up, which totally to me says, okay, Coach Hart might be on the hot seat. When you have to transfer a safety to the linebacking room just to fix it, that tells me that was Charles Kelly being like, you're not good enough. Here's my best guy that I think is better than any of your linebackers. We're putting him in your room. So
I've been saying the same thing. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a super chat here from Bodie. Thank you so much. And we'll wrap up here in a few minutes if that's okay, Russ.
Yeah.
Bodie, again, thank you so much. Really helps out the channel. Yo, David, we got Sapp, which I've been telling everyone. Now I'm saying we're going to win the national championship. Something else I've been saying. You heard it here first. Football emoji, buff emoji, arm emoji, trophy emoji. I'll react to this and then I'll get your thoughts on it. Bodie, love the enthusiasm. I love the belief. I'm going to be putting $100 on that plus $30,000 odds for CU to win the national championship this year. I think the Buffs inside, the locker room or on campus, they have that expectation of being there, of being champions, or they failed. For me as a fan, I don't know if from more of a objective point of view if I can get behind that yet, but I'm gonna be cheering for it, man. I'm gonna be cheering for it, no doubt. Any other reaction to this, Russ?
Pretty much the same. Like, as fans, we can absolutely, I want them to win a national championship. I want them to win every game. I want them to go out there and have the best season ever. On the realistic side, just looking at everything and what's going on and the expectations kind of everything, if we're being realistic, an 8-win, a 6-win, a 7-win bowl game for the first time in who knows how long, type of thing, without me going and looking. But I do love Bodie's, his confidence. We need fans like that to kind of overshadow maybe some of the negative fans I see out there that are picking off everything. And I'm just like, where have you been the last 10 years? For you to be criticizing Coach, I get it. And I hear this from people so many times, oh, if you criticize Coach Prime, all these fans come at you and the Coach Prime fans come at you, whatever that looks like. I'm a CU fan who loves Coach Prime and what he's doing because he's finally making us relevant again and actually able to talk about this and enjoy CU football again. So I'm always happy to see the really enthusiastic fans, and Bodie, you're definitely one of those, and appreciate you.
No doubt. And I'll just say this, Bodie, definitely keep cheering, keep this energy going. But this is what I ask, because I see a lot of people that say, Dave, your 9-win prediction, which I think is a little bit Kool-Aid, is hating. It's not enough. All I ask, guys, is that, hey, if we don't reach that threshold of double-digit wins or a conference championship or a college football playoff berth, we should not be shitting on this team if they get 7 wins. Like, that is an absolutely huge year for us, and it gets us to a bowl game. So, and hopefully we can win that.
What happened last offseason when a lot of fans were like, I'll just be happy with 3 wins or 4 wins, like, because everybody was saying, oh, they're gonna go winless, oh, they're only gonna win 1 game, and we were all gonna be happy because I said 4 wins last year. I'm not gonna say which, like, I didn't get them right, which wins, obviously, because we traded some weird ones, but like, then we went on that win streak and then we went on the losing streak, and it sounded like the world was ending. And I'm like, this is what we were expecting. So going into this season, like, 9 wins is an amazing season. Like, does it get us a conference championship? Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. But like, 6 wins is nothing to write home about. To go from 1, 4, 6, it's constant improvement. The only thing you don't want to see is just to go backwards. So yeah, 4 wins or less, yes, we can start talking about, okay, that was a failed season, especially when you have Shador and Travis playing. So let's chill just a little bit.
Yeah, it's just I don't want us getting too crazy, man. We're taking steps every year. Of course, I picked this team this past year to win 8 games, but guys, you're not coming here for the most objective analysis all the time. And I have a really hard time on, when I do projections, not having fun with it, not thinking better case scenarios for some of these matchups that we have. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, guys, we need to cherish this. We need to have fun with this. Following this team was no fun just a few years ago. We get blown out by 30 plus points every single matchup. We are invested. We have something to care about now. And I think we're going to see an improvement on both the offense and defense this year. And, how high they go, I guess we'll find out. But I'm at least expecting an improvement. I don't know what else to say.
Even just a small improvement would make a big difference. Bodie again.
I love it, man. I love it. And hey, Russ, if we do go 12-0, if we do win the national championship, I'll be celebrating. I'll have a party.
Yep.
But, Bodie, for the other people in the chat, I'll give you guys the mic. I'll give you guys the mic for the show. So you guys can tell everybody that we were doubting Thomas's. Just didn't believe, but it's all right. I got to wrap this up. I think Rawhide invited me to come on his show for a little bit at 4:15 here in 25 minutes. So y'all check that out. I do want to end this just by saying, Thomas Mulcahy, don't be sad. It's Friday. We could have elevated Coach Hart into this position. We could have elevated Coach Dancy from analyst to edge coach to DC if this thing was absolutely disastrous. Be happy that we have a guy that I think is qualified to take over a position like this. Not a big name, not a splashy hire or whatever, but I think we will be ranked better than the 128th defense or whatever we were this past year. What say you, Russ?
Same. Like, we were pretty bad last year, and I don't know if that was all on Charles Kelly. There was definitely some things that I would put on him. Like I said, we talked about it earlier with the crossers and not being able to stop that. That's just a simple thing when all of us are yelling and screaming at home. Like, are we the only ones seeing this? Are we crazy? And so, like, if he can just stop that, hey, just all we need to be is 7 points better, David. 7 points better. And we are hitting your win total easily.
Yes. Yes. And we're all making money on Vegas. We're all making money on Vegas. Couldn't have said it better. Russ, thank you again for joining me. Chat, you guys killed it. Fire as always. Appreciate you guys. But before I go, Russ, let us know, where do we find you? What do you got coming up?
Yeah, go over on YouTube, Buffs News Weekly, please. We just hit 150 subscribers. We're slowly growing. It's only been about a month. So that's great. Every Saturday I post a news kind of recap video. So we'll have kind of some of the similar stuff that we've talked about today in that format tomorrow. So make sure to check it out. And yeah, you can communicate with me on Twitter at Buffs News Weekly as well. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Man, absolutely. I went ahead and just updated the description of this video. So if you're watching on replay or refresh the live stream, we'll have a link to Russ's channel right in there. But man, really appreciate what you do. Really appreciate helping build this community, add to it. We need more and more voices, and we definitely need you hitting that 1,000 subscribers here in the next few months, man. We definitely need it. So guys, go support Russ. Please do that. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. If you want to have some more laughs, hop on here with me and Rawhide here at 4:15. But if not, I understand. Y'all have a great day, and Sco Buffs.
Sco Buffs.